All right, welcome to SENS Talk. My name is Brandon. I am your host. Before we get started, please follow us on Twitter at @SensTalk_ for live tweet updates of the games and, of course, breaking news. I'm just going to make sure the thing is live. Yeah, it is. All right, beautiful. All right, now we are here. We are joined by a very special guest. As you all know, UrinatingTree is here to discuss the trade deadline today. UrinatingTree, Tree, where do you want to get things started?
Leave it up to you, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. Where do you want to start, my man? You want to start with Karlsson?
I think the biggest deal, the biggest news out of the nation's capital the past quite a bit was Erik Karlsson and if he was going to be traded or not. Now, it's up to you to think whether or not he was going to be traded. At the end, it was a flurry of moves that teams like Washington was involved at the end, Vegas, it was San Jose. Of course, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay ended up getting Ryan McDonough, so that cut them out. And this is the news at the end of the day. Erik Karlsson is staying as an Ottawa Senator for the next few weeks. I want to hear your opinion on this. Before we get to the trades that happened today with the Senators and the rest of the league, Tree, what do you think happened? And not that, but what do you think is the potential outcome out of this? Because the Senators, obviously Erik Karlsson and Eugene Melnyk aren't not the best together. What do you see the outcome coming out of this in the next few weeks?
At the end of the day, the way is, I think it just delays the inevitable. I think it's one of those situations that just it exacerbates because Karlsson's frustrated right now. He's still injured-ish. He's playing some of the worst hockey of his career. And if you look at some of the highlights, you see that's not him. Yeah. But you're at the situation where it's I think they're at an impasse right now. And unfortunately, as much as it pains for Senators fans, I mean, the sooner you cut ties with Karlsson and get some sort of return for him, the better off it'll be in the long term. Because once you have those head clashing between, Melnyk and Dorian and Karlsson, you're just going to get more of these headaches. You're going to get more of this chaos.
Yeah, that's fair. But, I can agree with you. There's been – to be fair, he didn't have the offseason training, and he was out for the first 2 weeks. But I do agree, Erik Karlsson is not playing like the Erik Karlsson of last season. I don't think that warrants a trade. But what I'm trying to get at is, you can look at Daniel Everson. We all know about that. The fact he's chased out of the city. You can look at Jason Spezza and now Erik Karlsson. There's clearly a toxic relationship with a captain and the owner, Eugene Melnyk. Senators are going to keep Erik Karlsson at least to the deadline now, or at least until the season's over, until they can consider trading him, this or that. Do you think there's any chance Melnyk finally sees the opportunity to make $500 million and sells the team?
I wish I could say yes, but I don't see it. It's not because, don't get me wrong, any hockey fan worth his salt wants Melnyk gone. He's a detriment to the league. He's an embarrassment. But you're at the point where it's he's gone on record saying he doesn't want to sell. And I think he'd rather look into relocating because he has nothing else. I've actually, I think one of the SB Nation SENS boards actually looked into it and said he's in a metric shit ton of depth. Debt, I'm sorry. But he's in just over his head, and I don't know if selling it's going to be able to recoup that.
And I agree with that, I don't think the team can relocate only because it's such a strong market. You can take a look at the aspects. I made a video about this. Obviously, the effect of the Phoenix pay issue is affecting the reason there's not a lot of fans. The long commute to Canada, where the arena is affecting. There's a lot of variables as well with the Melnyk incident. But I really don't think Melnyk can say all he wants. The relocation will happen. I don't think the Senators will relocate. But my only fear is, you know baseball as well, and you know what happened with Jeffrey Loria and with the Miami Marlins and the way he ran those teams to the ground. Something similar happening here with Eugene Melnyk.
I'm kind of seeing it right now. At the end of the way, isn't he already stripping everything down? Isn't the scouting department already at bare bones?
Yeah, management's
you're slashing as much as you can. I mean, Dorian's only extended because he's going to do what Melnyk's going to say.
Yeah,
that's all it is. They're not going to fire Boucher because he's not going to be able to pay that the severance package, and that's why you had that whole situation with Derek Brassard, because Eugene Melnyk was not willing to retain salary. That's why you needed to get Vegas in there. That's why you had that whole trade within a trade and all that craziness going on there. That's why Ottawa downgraded their pick and actually had to give up more assets.
That's true, and I agree with that. With that situation, one bad season I don't think warrants a rebuild, but the Duchesne deal and getting rid of one of your two top first round picks definitely is going to backfire to them. But it really, I think it all ends up depending on, like I've been saying for quite a while. I don't know if you watch my videos or not, but it all depends on what happens with Erik Karlsson. Whatever happens with Erik Karlsson, it will stem down. If he somehow stays in the nation's capital, for some reason he resigns, which would be a miracle, the Senators will continue to build around him. But if he leaves, they're going to tear to the bone. There's no point keeping anything around. Before we continue, there are some comments people are typing. A couple people are saying hi. What else? SENS fan says you guys have the best videos, so thank you. I'm just making sure there's no questions. Nathan Dowie says Grabner to the Devils. Thoughts? What's your opinion on Michael Grabner to the New Jersey Devils?
I like the move. I know a lot of people were saying Grabner to the Pens, but for the speed on speed. But they didn't really pay a super high price for him. They were thinking like a first round pick for him, but a second plus a nice prospect in Yegor Rykov. Yeah, that's not a bad little deal for both sides, and that's actually the first trade that's ever been made from the Rangers and the Rangers and Devils in history.
That's true. Another question is from Chile. Is what do you think of the Rangers and Bolts deal? Massive deal. Nemestikov to the Rangers and involved with a bunch of other assets, and the Rangers give up Miller, JT Miller, and of course Ryan McDonough.
I love the deal for Tampa. I love it. It's literally just saying we're going all in. They couldn't get Karlsson, but Ryan McDonough is a really nice consolation prize. Plus, they get JT Miller, who is obviously their best player besides Kreider. And he plug him right in where Nemestikov was. I think that's an upgrade, technically. Nothing against Nemestikov, but literally, JT Miller can hold his own on a line like that. If you deal with something like that, plus you get, you don't have to give up Sergachev. You don't give up Braden Point. You don't give up Yanni Gourde. You don't give up a Calfoot. But it's going to be a late first-round pick. But, still, it's that's really impressive.
And I agree. I think you look at what the Rangers did here, and getting McDonough, that in my opinion, automatically cuts them away from the Erik Karlsson chase. There's I don't see how the Tampa Bay Lightning continue to go after McDonough. So now that leaves a few teams that we already know in it. But what I think is Erik Karlsson, if not re-signed, Pierre Dorion had a press conference. Obviously, he has to say this, but he said if he's still Ottawa Senator after July 1st, he will give an offer to re-sign. Now, I don't know how low that money would be. It all depends on Eugene Melnyk. But what teams do you – obviously, all NHL teams would be interested, but we all know Bobby Ryan would have to be involved in this deal. What NHL team, off the top of your head, while spitballing, do you think – Erik Karlsson and probably Bobby Ryan's contract makes the most sense to be moved to?
I would probably say Vegas right now because of the low cap. They were able to swallow that sort of contract. They have the assets to take on. Obviously, taking on Bobby Ryan's going to lower that value significantly.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I would say that. I would probably say – I'm trying to think. Because who has the assets to really deal with that? Who are the lowest cap teams? The Hurricanes, but Vegas. Vegas, the Islanders, but I don't trust Garth Snow with that. I think they're trying to do everything to sign Tavares again. I don't know, maybe the Canadiens, but once again, you're dealing with Bergevin. So
Yeah, man, there was a report from Travis Yost earlier in the week that the Habs would be involved in a 3-team deal, probably sending Bobby Ryan to them. Thankfully, that never transpired, and now Erik Karlsson still an 100%er. I'm taking a look at some of the comments here. Some people are talking about what's their opinion on, of course, the Evander Kane deal and then the Paul Stastny trade to the Winnipeg Jets.
The Evander Kane deal, I was never that crazy on Evander Kane, not because of his skill, but because he's a nuisance. He's a head case. Yeah, he's caused trouble everywhere he's gone. He's caused trouble in Winnipeg. He's caused trouble in Buffalo. He's gotten into a fight with a couple players too. Like it's one of the biggest cancers in the league. And now he's going to San Jose where he can actually play a playoff game, but he's not like a first line forward as everyone was hyping him to be. He's like a middle six guy. Compliment, somebody you throw on with like maybe a Pavelski or something like that. Hope he can grab some goals. But like I think this could backfire for San Jose badly because I mean they thought Raffi Torres was a nuisance. If Evander Kane can't keep his head like straight, it could get ugly, and that's what you got to worry about.
And moving on to Paul Stastny, what's your Winnipeg is loaded and they're ready to win their first franchise, going way back to Atlanta as well. Playoff game.
First playoff game.
Yeah. I don't see how they don't win a playoff game this year. What do you think of that Paul Stastny trade, and what do you think of the Winnipeg Jets moving forward?
The Jets are in actually a pretty good position. Stastny had some salary retained, right? About 50%, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so like they're in like only paying $3.5 million. That's a bargain even for like a declining Stastny for the next couple of years. You roll them on your third line. I mean, they've still got prospects out the wazoo. They still have Nick Matan and Brendan Lemieux and Roslovic. They still have rolling in, and like their forward core is loaded, and I mean it probably might be one of the best in the league right now. And you could take it over like maybe. You could rival maybe Tampa, maybe Toronto, Nashville.
Yeah.
I got easily top 5.
Yeah, I think they are definitely a legit Stanley Cup contender. Moving on, continuing with the Erik Karlsson talk, we have somebody very eager to hear my opinion. What was it again that he said? Let me move all the way up. This guy named Danny asked, what do you think about Karlsson most likely leaving the team, and my team will go crumble to the ground? What do you see happening most likely for the Senators? Because this guy does say he thinks he obviously is for sure that he thinks Karlsson's going to leave. Do you think the Senators can remain competitive somewhat, or at least stay away from the bottom of the league without Erik Karlsson?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, they haven't stayed out of the bottom of the league with Karlsson, technically.
Yeah.
That's more because everything's blown up in their faces. If you technically think last year, it was because Craig Anderson was playing way over his head and stopping everything in his path. And now he just looks burnt and old, same as Condon. That's what's really causing your issues right now.
Yeah.
Like, technically, if you lose Karlsson, you might as well just blow it up. You're kind of starting to right now since you got rid of Brassard. Pajot didn't go. I mean, I'm kind of surprised Hoffman didn't get traded.
Or Smith.
Like if you're going to trade Karlsson, you might as well trade Mark Stone.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a really nice package for Mark Stone.
Yeah, because Mark Stone, in my opinion, is one of the younger. I'm going to put it out there, superstar. He just came back from injury. He has 12 points in the last 8 games on a team that is bottom 3rd in the league in scoring. Mark Stone, best player. He is especially this season. I think the core of Duchesne, Hoffman, Stone, Karlsson, Shabbat is a core you can win with. And I just don't understand why the Senators would try to blow this up.
It's because Melnyk, that's why.
Well, of course. But like anyone else rational would not want to do that. But that is the only reason. Because besides that, you have a core. You build around it with young players. You have White coming up. You have Yarrow as defenseman, etc. You have a team that can win. We're going to go back to the comments here. A lot of people are asking about the Tomas Tatar deal that was late to come in. What's your opinion on that one?
The Tomas Tatar trade. I think it technically works for both teams. For Vegas, I mean, you get a decent little bottom 6 guy. For Detroit, I mean, you get like a few draft picks that are like not all the same year. They're spread out. The real key for Detroit there is they get cap space. They need the cap space to sign your Anthony Manthas, your Martin Ferg, your Athanasius, and your Dylan Larkins. I mean, they needed cap room. And I mean, it's a start. I'd rather have stripped off somebody else. But I mean, Tatar wasn't going to lead them anywhere. Technically, they should get rid of Nyquist too, because once again, he's not the guy they expect him to be. You can't really get rid of anybody else. So you have to get rid of what you can.
And that makes sense, Ken Holland, like you said in your Detroit Red Wings video, which was probably one of the best videos you've made, not going to lie. The Red Wings put themselves in cap hell with the Trevor Daley signing and a bunch of other questionable signings. You got Larkin, you have Anthony Siu, and etc. coming up. These are big signings in the future. And they weren't able to trade Mike Green. What do you see the Red Wings doing during the trade, the draft?
Well, technically, all you really can do is try and sell off what you can. It's the only thing they really can do. Like, most of those players that have been signed to those deals are on no trade clauses or no movement clauses. Like, I think Jonathan Ericsson has a limited no trade clause. Danny the Kaiser has a no trade clause. They also have who else? Zetterberg's probably on the decline now. They're in trouble. And unfortunately, it's one of those situations where it's going to take a while. And the only thing they can really do is bottom out and swipe clean, even though they're not really able to.
I asked some people to repeat their questions, so I'm going to read them to you one by one. Starting with Mahez Vera. Does the addition of Derek Brassard make the Pens, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the deepest team at the center position?
Ooh. I would say they probably look better than they did the last 2 years, because I would say Brassard's better than Bonino. And nothing against Bonino, but Brassard's pretty good. Brassard's I would Cullen a slight push over Cheyenne.
Yeah.
But technically, if you throw Brassard instead of Bonino, that's a huge upgrade.
And I agree.
Especially in that position.
Let's move on now to Rick. We already talked about the Thomas Tatar trade, so now the Rick Nash trade.
The Rick Nash trade, I think it's a massive overpayment by Boston. I think they've Boston's technically, I think they really should have stuck pat. They really were doing well with their youth and allowing them to build within, and now you're bringing in a bunch of veterans. And I've never been sold on Don Sweeney. I've never been sold on what he's been doing over there, even though he's had a good year. I credit that more to his scouts. But technically, I think they sent down Grzelcyk, and you're bringing in Nick Holden, who apparently sucked in New York.
Yeah.
You're bringing in Tommy Wingels. Yeah. Rick Nash. This isn't the Nash of 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
He's more of a compliment right now. And I felt like Spooner was probably the best piece. Go back in that trade, and you had to get rid of him because, let's face it, they're doing it to get rid of Bolesky's albatross.
Yeah. And obviously, we go back to your Boston Bruins video. You made a lot of good videos. Dougie Hamilton, and then they re-signed Bolesky, biting them in the butt. But here's some more questions. We already kind of touched up on Hoffman get moved. I don't think he'll get moved in the summer. But like I said, it all depends on Erik Karlsson leaving. But if Karlsson does leave, and Hoffman, it's up in the air for that one, so I can't really answer that. But do you think if Karlsson leaves, will Mark Stone be named the captain?
I would probably say so. Who else really is there to be a captain right now?
You can make maybe Duchesne, but I really think it's the no question deal. Well, not deal, but captain would be Mark Stone. There's just no question about it.
Yeah, that's the only one that makes sense to me, really.
Yeah. More questions. Danny, again, what do you think about the Thomas Plekanec trade from the Canadiens' perspective? He wants to hear your opinion, Tree.
The thing with Plekanec is that he was he's past his prime. I think Toronto's more using him as depth than anything. But it's one of those situations where, I don't know if Toronto really got anything. Kirby Reichel hasn't developed. Renat Valiev hasn't really developed. Getting, a second-round pick out of him? I have no idea what the hell Bergevin's doing.
Yeah.
You go about trading Pacioretty, you don't trade him. You go about talking about trading, for other pieces, you don't get him. You trade for, you trade your depth in Joe Morrow. You bring in more depth in Mike Riley. You throw around a bunch of, chairs all over the Titanic. Even though technically you really should have sold off what you can because Carey Price and Shea Weber are out for the year and they aren't coming back. You're done. But technically, if I remember hearing correctly, that Molson has confidence in Bergevin, so he ain't getting fired.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate because Bergevin is pretty bad.
We have some breaking news. Patrick Hornqvist signs a 5-year, $5.3 million extension with the Pittsburgh Penguins. As a Penguins fan, what's your opinion on that one?
Oh, Patrick Hornqvist is one of those like glue guys that you love. 5.5 is actually, you might say it's an overpayment, but for a guy like Hornqvist, if he keeps up that production, that's actually a pretty good deal for him.
Yeah.
I love it personally. Like, I mean, you're paying for like a couple years, and the thing you have to worry about physical guys is that it's gonna like they could fall off a cliff. But like for a Hornqvist, the guy's a workout warrior because like, I mean, you can't grow. I love Hornqvist. I love the game he plays. I love the style. Like I like the deal, and I think that was one of the big things the Pens needed to do is find a way to re-sign Hornqvist.
I could agree. Now let's get back to some conversations. We'll skim through some of these because obviously we can't do them all. Let's see. What do you think of Pekka Rinne?
Pekka Rinne.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might be too good right now. I can't tell.
Moving on. There's a quick fire here of questions. The Hartman deal, the Vanek deal. What's your opinion on those?
The Hartman deal, I don't know why Chicago is technically selling their cost-controlled youth because they're in a weird situation. Although they did get a nice return for him. First-round pick, some guy out of Europe. I forget his name. Victor Esbjorn, I think it is. And a fourth. Hartman, I think, is a pretty solid guy. I think he's a nice two-way forward. I think he could fit in nicely in their bottom six, especially like Nashville wants to go for a cup. Once again, just like the Atlantic Division, Central Division is going to be a bloodbath this year. Those are going to be two great series to go out of the playoffs right now. Yeah. Like for Vanek, like for Columbus, I don't know if they have the pieces right now to make a deep playoff run. The problem is like they've been too injured and they haven't really gotten any traction. They'll probably make the playoffs and then they might get their asses kicked by Tampa or like one of the big guys. Like that's the problem with them right now. I don't know.
What else? Any other questions here? Okay, let's talk about now the Ottawa Senator trades. Earlier this morning, the first trade of the day at 9:41 was Ian Cole was traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2020 third-round pick, which is I would prefer 2019 or 2018. We don't have a second or third-round draft pick this year. As well, the forward, Nick Motry, who has 6 points this year in 22 games with Cleveland in the AHL. He's no more than a fourth-line grinder. As a Penguins fan, what is Columbus getting in Ian Cole?
What they're getting is a playoff warrior. They're getting a guy who's a great third-pairing defenseman. They're getting a guy who can block shots and decent offensive instincts. Like, not the greatest offensive instincts, but pretty solid for a third-pairing guy. Very gritty, very technical, good penalty killer. Like, that's the thing that stung me about the Brassard trade, because I think Ian Cole's a pretty solid guy, and I'd rather technically have him over Matt Hunwick. Matt Hunwick sucks. But what they're getting, they'll be pretty pleased with Ian Cole, especially for that price.
Which is intriguing because earlier in the season, like a few weeks ago, Jack Johnson's name was in the trade rumors. With this deal, it created quite speculation about a potential Jack Johnson trade. Nothing transpired as of late, and I don't think it will happen. So it looks like Jack Johnson will remain with the Columbus Blue Jackets for the remaining part of the season. Let's go now to the second and only other trade for the Senators is today. Nick Shore, who the Senators acquired in the LA Kings deal with Dylan Phaneuf and Nate Thompson, who I personally liked and was a good fourth-line young two-way player, was traded to the Calgary Flames for a 2019 seventh-round draft pick. I don't think that's a lot for the guy. I don't know why they would do that, but they did it. What do you think?
The only thing I can think of with that trade is they had to clear roster space.
Yeah.
I mean, I figure Nick Shore would have been a nice at least filler for the season, but
yeah,
I don't get it. Like, I mean, Dorian got extended. I think he gave up. I don't know what he's doing either, but like he gave up way too much for Duchesne. Let's not lie to ourselves. But like Ottawa's in a dark place right now, and
it doesn't help when you don't have hope with an awful general manager. And the final news of the day for the Senators, Johnny Oduya, for somehow the Senators couldn't get anything for him. was claimed today. Like I said in my last video, I said it would either be Winnipeg, New Jersey, or Philadelphia that would claim him. Philadelphia claimed him off waivers. So Johnny Udilla is now a Philadelphia Flyer. I don't know if you know too much about Johnny Udilla. He was not good in Ottawa this year.
Yeah, he's declined.
For the Philadelphia Flyers.
I don't think he does anything because, quite frankly, what Philadelphia needs are less veterans. They need to trust their youth and allow them to build from within. The issue with Philadelphia has been their veterans. If you look at Joey Laterra, he's played like shit. Andrew McDonald's one of their whipping boys. Brandon Manning, one of their whipping boys. Dale Weiss. He's in Philly, or is he in Chicago? I think he's in Philly, right?
Dale Weiss? Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, but their veterans are their issue. They need to trust their younger guys and allow them to build. That's what prevents them from achieving their full potential.
Yeah.
You've seen flashes of it, and then you see them lose 10 straight. They're unpredictable, and that's what makes them dangerous. If they can allow themselves to trust their youth and stop going after these overpaid veterans, and just like Johnny Udilla isn't going to solve anything.
No.
You got the Johnny Udilla 5 years ago when he was in Chicago. Yeah, you'd probably get something out of him. But
I personally think Johnny Udilla not going to do much for them, but, you're going on a playoff drive, you're going into the playoffs. It's always good to have a seventh man at least that could fill in once in a while if need be, that has some playoff experience. So I think it's a harmless pickup for the Flyers, but I agree. There shouldn't be high expectations for Jonathan Udilla.
I would say it's nothing crazy. You're going to get like a 6th, 7th guy. That's really about it.
Now moving on, some people are asking about the Habs. What do you see moving forward with the Habs? What's their what do you call it? What's their future looking like?
I don't know. And that's only because, let's face it, Bergevin is, I don't know. You tell me what Bergevin's doing, and I'll understand. I feel like they have a big chalkboard in the background over here that just says John Tavares. And that is literally the only thing they've got right now. John Tavares, ? Profit. That is really about it.
Vancouver Canucks. It's like the Vancouver Canucks. You look at the misery that the Toronto Maple Leafs went through for forever. Do you think Montreal, with the vote of confidence from Molson, for Marc Bergevin, do you think the Canadiens can pull out of this and at least in 10 years be competitive again in the near future?
Well, if you have a guy like Carey Price and you're throwing him that much money, you're going to be stuck in at least a semi-competitive state, even though Canadiens are they're stuck right now because they've invested so much money in Shea Weber, who can't stay healthy this year. And you also have Carey Price, who had a bad year and can't stay healthy. You couldn't sign Radulov. You couldn't sign Andrei Markov because Bergevin lowballed them to the point that they just left. And then, I think Galchenyuk probably gets moved for pennies because, they've destroyed him down there. Pacioretty, who knows what's going on with him down there.
He wasn't traded, which is, it's kind of like the Karlsson situation where the rumors are flying about a potential trade, right? And then it doesn't happen. You look at what's going on with, the signing of Carey Price, and then the Jonathan Drouin deal, which completely backfired in their face. He's not a center; he's a winger. That's a team, unlike Ottawa, that's a team that needs to go through a rebuild, in my opinion. And then I don't know if they will, but in a potential Carey Price deal, what in the summer or in the next trade deadline or next season, what do you see coming? What do you see coming back for a Carey Price deal, especially with that huge and almost untradeable contract?
It's going to be a lot lower than his value. That's the only way. Only way you're going to get something back for him is at 50% retention, and with you have to give something back. That's the only way you're going to get something back for Carey Price. And Carey Price is just in. Montreal was in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, and they chose the part where we're just going to bank a lot of money in this random goaltender that is solid, but he's not going to lead us anywhere unless you have pieces. Rangers learned that with Henrik Lundqvist. And like the Canadiens, their issue is like they get held back by that old like standard of arrogance of everything has to be French Canadian, everything has to be francophone, everything has to be a tradition, and that holds them back from greatness.
I
remember seeing comments in that video I made about them about like how you don't understand the Canadiens, like that's a heritage thing. It's like shit like that is the reason why you're held back.
I agree. Here are a couple of questions. One from Press Start 66. Hey Tree. Will you make a Haters Guide to the MLB season video like last year? And I can agree. I would love to see a video about the baseball because baseball is back in less than a month now.
Yep, I'm shooting for that in mid-March. I'm just trying to allow a few more free agent signings to flush out. I'm just waiting to see how like everything pieces together. Like you're starting to see a lot of narratives start to drive for certain teams. But once again, I just want to see how things like turn out for other teams.
That sounds about good. Now going to the Atlantic Division, the Senators were supposed to be competing for a playoff spot their way out. I see Florida as an underdog to potentially get a wild card spot, but sticking with the top three teams in the division, Tampa Bay, Boston, and then you got Toronto. Probably Toronto and Boston are going to play each other, but Tampa Bay might fall back. Who do you see, assuming probably seeing it happen, who do you see probably seeing the Pens going to the conference finals again? They're like the Patriots in that way. Who do you see coming from the Atlantic Division, putting a fight up against the Penguins for the Stanley Cup final spot?
For the besides the Lightning, you would say? I would say probably like there are three teams out of the Atlantic that I think have a shot: Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston. Toronto is probably the weakest of the three because, not because of anything, but because of their inconsistency. Like, they can go on cold streaks and then they have these massive hot streaks.
Yeah. They
can keep that up. They could catch fire. Tampa Bay is a clear-cut favorite right now, but once again, you know how playoffs go.
Yeah.
They always go crazy.
Especially with Ottawa last year.
Yeah, I would say that, with Boston, they've turned my head this year because they can roll four lines right now, especially with their youth.
Yeah.
If Nash, if they realize he's just a complimentary piece instead of, the guy who could carry a squad like he was earlier in New York and in Columbus, I think they'll be okay. But you have to have, every man on deck. You have to have Tuukka Rask play like a god and not like the inconsistent madness that he was.
Yeah. This season, like last year, there was a lot of injuries for the Bruins, but this year it seems like to be a coming up party for the Bruins. And like you said, the boys club with the Bruins, that Rick Nash deal, they might have jumped the shark there, like you said multiple times in your videos, where that might be the trade that starts to turn things downhill. Now, I know it's early, but they just lost to the Buffalo Sabres 4-1 last night. And that's nothing to say of, yeah, they're all going to fall down. But I do think this deal with Rick Nash, which I do believe they overpaid for, might end up backfiring the Bruins.
I don't know if I go that far yet. I want to see how certain things come out so far, and then I'll take a look at how they do. But once again, that's what, predictions are. And, I mean, I'm pretty bad at them, so I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Keep you – you know what? You should – just say for me right now that the Leafs are going to win the Cup. I want you to jinx that, please. Just say it.
Dude, everyone in Toronto thinks the Leafs are going to win the Cup, and they jinx them every time.
That's very true. But let's talk about that for a quick second. I don't understand about anything you say. The opposite happens.
But mostly. And then the one time I predicted Los Angeles pitching is going to be hot hand and they're going to be really good. And then I realized, wait, they're going to suck. And then Houston's going to win in 7 games. I was actually correct. So I might have to do that again this year.
Yeah, that is true. And not trying to get too much into baseball. So let's move it on, continuing with the Senators. You're a Penguins fan. Do you know much about Philip Gustafson, the goalie the Senators acquired?
I think he was pretty solid. Like I've heard great things about him. Like he was highly regarded at the draft. He's done pretty well in the Swedish league. I think they really liked Gustafsson. I think they thought he was a really solid piece. The thing I'm okay with it. It stings, but he's excess goods. You have Murray, you have Jari. The Smith has turned into a decent little backshop option. So it's like Gustafsson didn't really have anywhere to go here, and that's a problem.
Okay. Now, looking from Casey Lester, a comment, he says, or she says, do you think the Sharks will continue to contend for a cup? They just traded Grosenick for pennies and got Evander Kane for the Buffalo Sabres. What do you think about that?
Well, if you remember what happened with Evander Kane, they were like looking for like a first-round pick, a prospect, and like 2 more pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, but you look at Jumbo Joe and this and that. And Martin Jones, he hasn't been too consistently this year. He hasn't been that consistent this year. Do you think Martin Jones can hold it together? Like with this addition of Evander Kane, clearly the Sharks think they can go for it. Do you think Martin Jones can be that solid starting goalie and help the Sharks propel to another Cup final?
I don't think they have the horsepower to really do it this year. Like, I don't think they can really like compete with anything out of the Central or like anything that crazy. Like, I don't think it's their year. And I hate this because the Sharks are my second favorite team.
Yeah.
And I want to see them win, but it's just, I don't see it.
And I understand that. I think it's just they're there. They're going to be there. But I just don't think they're going to be good enough to get there, you know? I don't think they'll be good enough to get there. Now, let's also talk about a couple of other things. Right now, we're looking at the comment section. Lord Lau, he asks, will the Capitals in the second round of the playoffs again? And Mahas Rivera adds, will it be to the Penguins?
Part of me thinks the Pens and Caps don't even play each other.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm just not getting it. The thing is with the Capitals, like I'm not impressed with what they are right now. I think they're way too top loaded. They don't have any depth. They have a lot of defensive issues. They just patched it together with a bunch of random depth defensemen. And like if you actually look into their advanced analytics, like a lot of it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Braden Holtby's like way too inconsistent that it's just like it's like I don't even know if they make it out of the first round this year.
Well, potentially, it looks
either
like
that or the Pens like fall apart. So like that's the way I see it.
Like right now, the Capitals will be playing. I believe it would either be the Florida Panthers, the Islanders, like one of those teams in the second wild card. Let's say they play. Actually, let me check the standings right now. Because
it would be the first wild card, wouldn't it?
Are they first place or second place in the division?
They're first in the division, but I think Tampa plays the second wild card.
That's true. That's true. So they'd be first. So I believe
they would be facing like.
Do you see them beating Columbus?
Columbus.
Currently, that's the spot.
I don't know. I'd have to see how Columbus does because Bobrovsky is always the kind of guy that catches fire.
Yeah, that's true. Like especially last year with that 16-game win streak, which really helped to make the playoffs. Okay, also another one from Casey Lester. He says, does Vegas get stopped in the playoffs, and if so, by who? Vegas on a hot streak. I kind of predicted that they'd be in a playoff contention way when the beginning of the season started. I didn't think to be this good, but I thought they'd be in the playoff bubble. And clearly I was kind of right, but clearly way off. And everyone was way off considering I thought they would be here. Everyone thought they would be here, and they're here. Where do you see the Vegas Golden Knights finishing up this 2018 season?
Like with the Vegas Golden Knights, they do well against their own division, and the rest of their division isn't really all that crazy. The only one I think is a real threat right now to them is Calgary because their upside is pretty crazy. They're very inconsistent, and with Calgary, it can get a little tough with like with how you gauge them. And, like, it's the same thing with Philadelphia. They're unpredictable and they're dangerous. And I think it's tough.
That makes sense. Here's a question from Daniel McFarlane. Hey, Tree, off topic, but I have an opportunity to ask for you. Have you ever considered doing locale videos on the Canadian Football League teams as well as haters guides on the CFL?
The CFL teams, like, I don't know all that much about them right now. I hear there are a lot of crazy, like, messes up there. Like, you hear about, the Hamilton Tiger Cats trying to hire Art Briles and bring in Johnny Football, and they both, like, it got a little rough, but I'll definitely look into it. Yeah. But, like, it's in the situation where I just have, like, a lot I really want to get to and not enough time to do it.
I have somebody here asking for a shout out. Josh Demir is asking for a shout out from you, Tree.
What up, Josh?
There you go.
Say hi from my potato.
Moving forward, continue with the trade deadline. Not the most action-packed trade deadline this season, but there were some nice moves. What do you see happening in the offseason now, especially with Erik Karlsson? But not even Erik Karlsson. Looking at the draft, there's a 10% chance the Senators get Rasmus Dahlin. Do you think that affects the Senators' offer sheet and idea of re-signing their captain, Erik Karlsson?
Well, it makes it a little easier to get rid of Karlsson because, like, you have your next key defenseman that you can hype up as the face of the franchise. Yeah. And I would feel bad for Dahlin either way because, like, there aren't too many great options for him to go to. I mean, you got fucking Arizona. They're a mess. Buffalo's a mess. Yeah. Like, they've got Edmonton. They're also a mess. Yeah. And they can't develop anyone with a shit. Like, they've also got, like, who else is really there?
Yeah, there's you could say Ottawa, but, like, I don't think anyone wants to come to the UG Melnyk situation. It's not ideal for any draft pick to be coming to any of those teams at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nathan Dowie once again asked a question. Do you think the Oilers will bounce back next year after the dumpster fire this season?
I don't know. It depends if Cam Talbot can return to form. That's your biggest issue right now. Cam Talbot can come back. I think they'll be okay. But the problem with Edmonton is they're going right into cap hell. Yeah. And that's going to be the problem right now because I'm little spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing a video on the Oilers. I'm hoping it out for this week. But I would say, like, the issue right now is they like McDavid's contract comes into effect. A lot of your big contracts have no movement clauses. Like Lucic, I think, has a no movement clause. Shakira has a no movement clause. Chris Russell has a no movement clause. Darnell Nurse is going to be wanting a big pay raise. Benning needs to be paid. Strome needs to be paid. They're in trouble. And they're going to be slammed right against the cap, and they're going to have to make a really bad move, like a Marcus Johansson move last year. Yeah, they're going to have to trade like Nugent Hopkins or Oscar Klefbom for a third-round pick, or they're going to have to dangle like Jesse Puljujarvi or something to like shed one of those salaries. It's going to be tough for them. And Chiarelli has just done like an embarrassingly horrible job in Edmonton. Yeah. Like, he's botched their cap. He's overpaid vastly. Yeah, like, I thought he did all right in Boston, but, like, dear God.
Yeah. Nathan Dowie once again asked a rapid-fire question. Worst general manager, John Chayka or Sam Hinkie? Quick response.
Well, both are a little weird right now, but, like, I'd probably say Hinkie right now because Chayka can still prove himself. Yeah. I know a lot of people were still going off about Hinkie and have his defenders, but if you actually look into his record, he made a lot of misses, and he got kind of lucky.
Now, another question from M. Ice. If the Senators fall to 5th or 7th overall in this year's draft in Buffalo, would you want the Senators to give up that pick to the Avalanche and keep their 2019 first-round pick, which they are able to do until the day of the draft? They're able to do it until their pick is made, until they have to make the pick, I believe, or the draft starts. Once again, with this question before you answer, it really all stems on the Erik Karlsson situation.
I would say that, but once again, like, I don't know what's going on in the mind of Pierre Dorian. Like, do you think, like, he'll be able to, like, keep that pick? Like, is it lottery protected, or is it just like he can, like, just move the pick?
What the situation is Pierre Dorian, if it's a lottery pick, he can pick until the draft starts. Pierre Dorian can pick it either this year or next year. He gives the pick to Colorado. Now, obviously, the Erik Karlsson situation would affect this deal with his decision here. If the Senators fall back 5th or 7th, do the Senators risk giving up a top 5, top 7 pick and hope for next year that they tank, which would mean Karlsson's gone, or vice versa? What do you think happens there?
Oof. I don't know. Like, part of me thinks they might, if they keep this pick this year, they're going to package it up and try and get like a Dahlian.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. What else? We have a question from Press Start again, 666. I have a question for Tree. Will he do a video on the FIFA World Cup this summer?
I'll think about it. Definitely. Like, I would need to learn more about the teams and more about the standards. But, like, if it's like there's like a situation, you know, like where Brazil gets their asses kicked by Germany at home, like, you have to make a video on that.
Now, I don't know if you heard about it, but it's kind of a brewing story in the nation's capital. There's a campaign from Senators fans to raise over $8,000 in one day. A Melnyk out campaign where they put billboards and put ads in the newspapers. What's your opinion on the Melnyk out trend and the Melnyk out campaign?
Well, they're technically doing what the Islanders are doing with Garth Snow right now. Like, they did like a huge campaign to get a billboard to fire Garth Snow, which technically should have happened years ago, but yeah. I don't know. He probably has nude photos of the owners' wives or something like that. Melnyk is an embarrassment. And technically, the sooner he's out, the better it is for hockey. Yeah. But it's just like, it's one of those situations where, like, I mean, Melnyk doesn't really care about anything besides his wallet.
Yeah.
And
twice in Barbados.
And the only way he's going to actually be able to go, like, be selling the team is if the NHL forces him to sell the team. Yeah. That's the only way.
I don't see how the NHL can do that, but
I mean, if they have to do something egregious. Yeah. Which, I mean, it's happened before. Like, it happened with, like, the NBA and Donald Sterling.
Yeah. Now let's look at Mahazavera. A comment: does Chris Kunitz still give you nightmares? Ooh. Yes, he does. He gives me nightmares. Whenever they show that goal on TV or by mistake I see that goal on YouTube, etc., it ruins my day, really. Especially with the way the Senators season has gone this year, it's really just awful to look at.
That's pain. That was pain. Even I was seeing that, like, when the goal happens, like, it's either going to be the most painful moment or one of the most glorious moments. Like, it's either going to be our Darius Kasparaitis or our David Volek. It was your Darius Kasparaitis, and I was just like sitting there like, Jesus Christ, that is painful.
It was
double overtime, Game 7.
Yeah,
and the worst one is with the Capitals back in '87, 4 overtime, Game 7.
That's awful. Stay up that late. The worst part about that Chris Kunitz goal is the season's over, and with the way the season's gone, even worse. But we were so close to the finals. Some of you guys here may know or may not know. I make videos after every single Senators game. I analyze the game. That must have been the hardest game. The hardest video to make. To keep my composure together, you know, because like such an incredible season, and the emotions were very raw when that happened, and that was a really tough video to make. And yeah, that's something that Sens fans will not forget for quite a while. Not for sure, not for quite a while.
Yeah, that was brutal. You don't wish that kind of misery on anyone, especially how this year has gone. You've gone from 1 year, like from one goal away from the Cup final to this. That is just such a turn of fortune in the span of 9 months.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's truly just embarrassing. I don't really have words, but the fact that Erik Karlsson is staying in Ottawa for the time being is something the linger to that maybe Melnyk will sell the team and maybe Karlsson will stay, but I don't see that happening. But it's something. It's just something to hope for, you know. It's just dreadful season, something to hope for.
Pittsburgh's having the same issue right now with their baseball team, the Pirates. Bob Nutting has been getting a lot of vitriol. He's been getting a lot of vitriol for years, but it's escalated over the past few years. Personally, I think they're I don't want to get into that team because I think they're just a waste. They're mired and they're content with their mediocrity and they just don't want to do anything. But like like something like that. Like there have a lot of people that want Nutting to sell the team. There was like a petition that got like 500,000 signatures on the internet. Of course, he's not going to sell the team because that's his cash cow. He's going to make money regardless.
Exactly. What else? What else to talk about? There's just so much information that's come today. Let's go on to some comments here. Let's go run back to Philip Gustafsson, and like we said, very he seems to be a really good goaltending prospect for the Ottawa Senators. What's the timeline, do you think, until he makes NHL?
I would say about, if you think like maybe a couple years in the minors, I'd probably say about 3 years.
Okay.
But like you're not going to reach his peak for another 5 maybe.
Yeah.
Like goalies take a lot longer to develop than anybody else, and they're more volatile. That's
true, and that's why, unlike you put like a defenseman or a forward in, if you put a goalie in that's not ready for the NHL, that could and ruins his confidence. He's ruined for his career, and like
like the Devon Dubnyk situations are very rare. Yeah, where like his confidence gets completely destroyed, and they're able to rebuild him into a solid goalie.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic. You can look at it, and the Habs had Devon Dubnyk, and if they could have got rid of Price, kept Dubnyk and started a rebuild, they could have got a lot back for Price. But Marc Bergevin is not about the smart. Well, they didn't know that Dubnyk, but it's just ironic, that the Habs had such a quality goalie and they gave him away for nothing. Same with the Coyotes.
Dubnyk had no value at the time.
That's true. Here's from Lord Lau. Do you wish you could take back everything you said about Pekka Rinne?
Nah. Can't, but you have to own it. I mean, you can't say like you can't regret anything. So
that's true. Here, Selkie Smooth asks. Actually, a better question is, will you actually do a Texas A&M video?
Is this about I know this is. It's about the subreddit. Like TX is probably watching this over my dead body, sir. I mean, I know he wants that bet, but we'll see.
Junebug, I don't endorse this, but he says, what if Melnyk dies in the next couple of weeks? That would be awful. No matter how much I hate the guy, you should never wish death on anyone. And if he died, that would be awful. Even though he's an awful person, wishing death on somebody is not something that you should say. And I think you can agree with me, Tree. You can say you want him to sell the team, but you should never hope that he would die. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why you can't really go on a video saying like, "Oh man, I wish like Eugene Melnyk was murdered and gang raped in Barbados by a bunch of like druggies." Like you can't say that because at the end of the day, he's still a human being. He still has feelings. I mean, like the dude had a near fatal liver condition, and that sucks. You can't wish that on anybody. I mean, the way he's treated Ottawa since has been fucking shitty, but like you can't wish death on people. Come on.
No, it's too low. That's just you shouldn't wish death on really anybody. So I don't have an opinion on that, and hopefully he won't die in the next 2 weeks or in quite a long time. M.I.S. again, with Brassard now gone, do you see Colin White or Logan Brown as a full-time Ottawa Senator next year? And Tree, who do you see Brassard playing with on his line? I'll answer the first part, and Tree can answer the second part. So I do see Colin White with the Senators next season. I really do. Now, as a center or not, I don't know. I would assume he'd be the center. And I do see Logan Brown, I don't know, full-time Ottawa Senator, but he'll definitely get some stints. He was pretty good in the preseason this season. And, we'll see if Logan Brown can make the next step. Now, Tree, who do you see playing with Derek Brassard on the Penguins' third line?
I would easily say probably Phil Kessel and Jake Gensel. Those would probably be my two guesses.
Okay. Todd Drama 1414. That Vegas trade was great for us Red Wings fans. Is that they're talking with that Thomas Tatar deal, like I said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, I think the big thing about that trade is getting cap relief.
Yeah.
Especially because you have so many young guys to sign, and either way, otherwise you would have to dangle one of those terrible contracts and get rid of one of them. So that's why they did the trade. I think it's also because Tatar has a decent amount of value still.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking at it now, Rutger Scherer has said that the 3 picks was a first, second, and third round pick. It's probably not going to be a high pick this year, but that's a lot to give up for pumps.
2018 first, a 2019 second, and a 2021 third, I think it is.
Yeah. It's a little steep, but, and both teams got what they needed, I guess.
Yeah. Tatar's a nice middle six forward. I think he'll fit in nicely in Vegas.
Yeah. And you know what? I could see Vegas going on a run. But let's just talk about a couple more things. Anything you want to bring up before we wrap things up? Any conversation topics?
Shoot. I think we've gone over everything mostly. I would say probably the Blues falling apart. That's really about it.
Yeah. What is going on with the Blues? Because that stashing trade really shows that they kind of sold off. They didn't sell really anything else. But
they've lost 6 straight. They've fallen apart.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, it's they've been in a rough spot, and ever since the Haters Guide video, they've got another key injury. They've dealt with more inconsistency. Their goaltending's fallen to shit. I mean, Carter Hutton wasn't going to keep that up.
Yeah,
that's not.
Yeah, for sure not. A few more questions. Why did Vegas help the Pens get Brassard? Repaying for Flower? Wanted to keep him away from the Jets? Did they really like Reeves that much?
Well, I think Vegas did it more or less because either it was a favor or because they were going to get pieces back in return.
Yeah,
that's probably the reason why. The only way they're going to keep salary, it's we'll take on this salary, but we're just going to have to give us maybe a draft pick or something like that from Ottawa to sweeten the deal. And the NHL rejected it at first, but that's why Vegas asked for Reeves. And Reeves did not fit in here. I did not like the trade when it happened, but Sundqvist hasn't panned out. But he kind of, in the end of the day, he dropped picks. But Reeves just he works better in the West. He's a physical presence that they kind of need. But but he's more a guy who can skate decently, but then throw down the gloves, but he can't really do much else.
That sounds about right. Besides that, where do you think? There's a couple more questions before we wrap things up. Where do you think the Senators are going to end up this season?
At the end of the season?
Yeah,
I'd probably say.
Don't make a prediction because I don't want any jinx. But theoretically,
I'd probably say theoretically, near the back of the pack. Probably not in the bottom, but near the back.
Okay. A couple more. This off the top of my head. Do you see any possibility where the Karlsson situation gets better?
The only way I can see it is if the team sells and they do an immediate PR move. That's the only way.
Besides that, Tree, thank you so much. So much for joining the show. I hope we can do this in the future. I'm going to say a couple things. So please, everyone that's watching, please follow us on Twitter at SENSTalk_. Follow to updates of the games and, of course, breaking news. Please like us on Facebook, SENSTalk. Add us to us on Google Plus, SENSTalk. Please check out our website, SENSTalkCentral.com. We update that every single day as well. Please check out our sponsor, cgiant.ca. Using the code SENSTalk will get you discounts on your Senators tickets. Tree, take it away for how people can go to your channel. By the way, before you answer, I put the description, your channel in the description below if anyone is interested in checking out your channel.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. I just shit post. That's really about it. It's nothing crazy. I don't reinvent the wheel. I don't do anything crazy. I just sit around and yell at teams. That's really all I do. It's nothing crazy. And
just speaking of your channel for a quick second, you have amassed. I subscribed when you had below 10,000 subscribers. I'm not trying to be one of those guys, but you got over 100,000 now.
125.
That's insane. Congratulations.
Steve. Yeah, I can't believe it either, man.
You get a few 100,000 a video, which is incredible. And you know what? I think deservingly so, because your videos are truly, if not the best, one of the best sports-related videos out there on YouTube.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. I know, I wouldn't have guessed when I first went back to doing videos, November of the year before, that I would be averaging over around 100K per video. That just boggles me.
It's insane, and we really appreciate you joining the show here. And I really hope we can do this sometime in the near future. I'm definitely interested in it, and hopefully you are as well.
Definitely, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure's all mine, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Take care, brother.
You as well.
Thank you.
But besides that, I appreciate everyone watching the stream. I hope everyone enjoyed UrinatingTree joining the stream. This was truly a great stream to do, and hopefully we'll do a collaboration again in the near future. Besides that, thank you all for watching. The recap the Senators trades. DL Phaneuf was traded involved with Nate Thompson for Nick Shore and as well Marian Gaborik. Moving on, Derek Brassard traded to the Pens for Ian Cole, a third-round pick, and Philip Gustafson, top goalie prospect. Today, Nick Shore traded for a seventh-round pick, and Ian Cole, who was acquired in the Derek Brassard deal, was traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a third-round pick, and Nick Moutry, a fourth-line grinder in the AHL. And that's it. So besides that, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, click the big red button down there, and I'll see you guys soon. I appreciate you guys for watching the stream. It was great to make. I'll see you soon. Go Sens go.